So this was killing me. I was burning out. I wasn't maximizing my time. I was making more money because, obviously my business was growing, but it really didn't make a lot of sense. It really didn't get to a point where I had to make a change until at the time when I was dating my wife now, but she was my girlfriend at the time. And in the early days of our relationship, she would be like, she had a job, I had a job, and on the weekend she was hoping that we can go out and hang out. Well, the one night she gives me a call and she's like, "Hey, what are we doing this weekend? You got any plans? We're gonna go maybe go out to eat, go see a movie." And I remember telling her, I just bought this new business software, and I was going to be studying that a little bit, and I had to write a ton of training programs. So I was like, I don't know if I can go out tonight. Maybe we can catch up next weekend. And I remember her just kind of getting silent on the phone, and she was just like, well, if we don't do something this weekend, then we're not dating, right? And so she kind of gave me that early ultimatum of hey, you got to figure this thing out. I like you and I understand you have a business, but I'm not going to date somebody who's just going to be working all the time. Coaches, are you spending hours writing training programs for your personal training clients so that they can get the best results that you can get them? Well, if you're writing every single one of your workouts from scratch, I want to let you know right now, you're probably killing your growth. So today's video, I want to kind of teach you the strategies that are going to help you be able to level up your personal training business. Whether you're a solopreneur just working on your own, you're trying to build up your own personal training block, or you're already running a personal training studio and you want to figure out how to maximize your time and generate more income so your business can grow. Today, I want to start by telling you a cool little story about how I stumbled upon semi-private training and how I started to learn from the biggest mistakes that I made early on to be able to improve and kind of perfect my model to a point where I was able to scale to over 125 personal training clients. Now, when I first got started, I came home from school and I had this big dream that I wanted to train. I just wanted to bring what I learned down in Georgia back to New Jersey. That I wanted to work with people and show them all the things that my mentors and teachers and professors has showed me, because I believe that fitness at the time wasn't really doing what I was getting ready to bring back, right? Everyone was doing the whole commercial fitness scene. Not too many, CrossFit style, performance style gyms existed back then. So I decided that I wanted to jump in and kind of just, obviously change my community, but try to take over the world, right? So I had this big dream to really bring back training up north and do it a different way. So early on, I was personal training out of my parents' backyard. I had a shed house, and it was very humble beginnings. I didn't have a lot of equipment, and but it was a great opportunity to get started and kind of build my name in those early days. I was training a couple clients, and it grew to a few more because I was, posting on Facebook, what have you not, right? Trying to do my early day marketing, which was terrible, but it still worked to get me my first 12 clients. And as I grew from 6 to 8 to 12, I needed a little bit more of an efficient system, so I couldn't just train one person every single hour. Not to mention, back then I was only charging $8 to $10 per session, so I wasn't really making a lot of money in a 3-hour span. So I decided to start training people at the same time. So I would train 3 or 4 people at the same time. Now, all of a sudden, I went from making $8 an hour I started obviously charging $10 per session because I was like, I need a pay increase, right? So I went to being able to, generate $40 an hour for my time, and I would do that for 3 hours straight. So that would be $120 sometimes on a given night. I know, that's pretty crazy. When you're first getting started off, you're like, I'm going to be rich. I figured it out, right? Because up until that point, I'd worked jobs like Taco Bell, Burger King. I worked at the supermarket. I poured concrete. I worked at the Disney store. I just had a laundry list of jobs, but none of them I ever made over $15 per hour, right? In fact, when I was down in school, I worked for our softball coach, and he probably paid me the most that I had made at that time, which I think he gave me $17 to $20 an hour a couple times. So up until that point, I had never realized what it was like to make over, $20, $30 an hour. So making $40 an hour doing something I really loved was a really big step up. And this kind of gave me the motivation that I was on something and I could keep going. So I ended up going and renting space at another gym with a couple trainers, and I took that model over there before I ended up starting my own personal training studio. When I got into my own building, things started to take off pretty well. I went from 25 clients to 50 clients almost overnight, and that same system of writing everyone's workout really wasn't working out for me anymore, right? So imagine this. Your clients are coming usually 2 times a week or 3 times a week if they're on a higher tier of training. So every program that I was writing had an A day and then had a B day. So when it was 15 people, I had to write 30 workouts. And then when it turned into 20 people, I had to write 40 workouts. And that's at least, right? Because some people were training 3 times a week. And then what happens now is when you get to 30, you're writing 60 workouts. So you can't really figure out how to split them up. Plus, everyone was kind of starting their new workout program at the same time. So really, my whole month, I would just be writing training programs to get ahead of the next month when everyone would get a fresh new training program. So this was killing me. I was burning out. I wasn't maximizing my time. I was making more money because, obviously my business was growing, but it really didn't make a lot of sense. It really didn't get to a point where I had to make a change until at the time when I was dating my wife now, but she was my girlfriend at the time. And in the early days of our relationship, she would be like, she had a job, I had a job, and on the weekend she was hoping that we can go out and hang out. Well, the one night she gives me a call and she's like, "Hey, what are we doing this weekend? You got any plans? We're gonna go maybe go out to eat, go see a movie." And I remember telling her, I had just bought this new business software and I was going to be studying that a little bit, and I had to write a ton of training programs. So I was like, I don't know if I can go out tonight. Maybe we can catch up next weekend. And I remember her just kind of getting silent on the phone, and she was just like, well, if we don't do something this weekend, then we're not dating, right? And so she kind of gave me that early ultimatum of hey, you got to figure this thing out. I like you and I understand you have a business, but I'm not going to date somebody who's just going to be working all the time. That's not what I signed up for. So yeah, I ended up putting my work to the side. And I went out with her that weekend and we hung out, but my mind was still thinking how do I solve this problem? How do I figure this out? So early on, what I did was I actually brought on a coach, right? And the coach started helping me with a lot of the writing of the programs, right? And in another video, I'll tell you why that ends up being a problem sometimes if you don't have really good systems set up in the first place. But at least in the beginning, it really helped me out because she was giving me a break from writing so many training programs, and I tried to really get ahead. All right, so I didn't have a lot of time, and the only way that I could figure out how to maximize my time was let's get this coach to start writing programs, but I'm going to give her a template, right? Here's a template on here's how a workout should flow, right? So that was the first thing that I did, right? I did 3 things that were going to help me really shift into this next phase, right? The first thing was I started creating templates, right? I realized that every workout that I wrote all followed the same order, right? It would always start with, we do our warm-up and mobility, we get into some core work, right? We do some power explosive stuff, then we're going to do our main lift, and we're going to do some accessory stuff, and then we're going to usually hit them with a finisher, and then we're going to do a cool down, stretch, foam roll, and then they leave, right? So I realized that if I at least wrote a template, then she could at least fill in those templates for me, and now we were already starting to maximize our time, meaning where before I didn't really have that template out in front of me, so I was just writing them and filling in the blank kind of. Later on, it started making that my training programs were getting written a lot faster, right? So that was the first thing. It sped up my ability to write training programs by following the same template. Everybody got the same template, but everyone's workouts looked a little bit different, right? Some people's rep schemes were in fat loss versus other people were doing strength training. Some people had this big lift, some people had this big lift, et cetera, right? So that was the first thing that I did. I was able to really kind of, I guess you could say, move me forward in my business and allowed me to kind of break through or at least maintain the 50 clients that I had without pulling my hair out and, just wanting to lose it and just quit and give up, right? So the second thing I did was, it took me years later, but this was when I was marketing, right? I started to realize that we needed to create templates based on our avatars, right? We needed to create templates based on avatars. So I would have certain people that came in that didn't really move that well, right? So I would like, all right, they're going to get a template like this, right? They're going to get a template like this. I had other people who wanted to train for fat loss. So I'm like, all right, they're going to get a fat loss template. All right, this person wants to train for strength. So we're going to give them a strength training template. All right, this person wants hypertrophy. So we're going to give them a hypertrophy. So before we knew it, I had a bunch of different templates that I would now write programs. So now I could like customize your goal, and I could write your training program a little bit faster, right? So this is one of the biggest moves that I made, was that now we were able to customize it so I could sell to people and say, hey, I can give you a customized training program based on your goals. And I had a little bit of a better opportunity to write these things out, so it didn't waste a lot of my time, right? So that was the second thing. Now the third thing that I did, which was the complete game changer, this didn't come until about 7 years or so, maybe even like 8 or 9 years into training, when we realized that it was important to start making pre-made programs, right? And in my next video, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit more about that in depth. But in this video, I just want to kind of highlight the 3 things that we did. So I started pre-writing these programs based on avatars, right? So I'd be like, okay, well, this is the kind of person that, you know, is going to be training for fat loss. So let me write out, 12 weeks of fat loss training for them, right? Let me write out 16 weeks of strength training for this client. Let me write out 8 weeks of hypertrophy for this client, right? So what happened was I went from starting off with templates and needing to fill in the blank, to now I had templates that kind of already had the rest of the building blocks on there, like reps and sets and all that great stuff and tempo. But now I was already starting to make some pre-made workouts, right? So when a new person would come in, I would have this pre-made workout, and all I had to do is tweak that workout a little bit based on their movement screen. And that was the biggest shift, right? That was the biggest shift for me that allowed me to be able to maximize how many people came into my gym, which was I didn't try to recreate the wheel, right? I did a lot of the thought process on the front end, thinking about the only types of clients that I would actually be serving, and then making sure that I already kind of created the journey for them, so when they came in, my job was a lot easier, right? And this is why most people are kind of stuck right now, is because they are still focused on the skill of writing all these workouts. They're still spending all of their time writing training programs and trying to be the best at writing training programs. So they're not building their skills on marketing and sales and all the other things that are actually going to help you grow your personal training business. So once I got out of writing all these training programs all the time, I was able to focus on things that were actually going to scale my gym, things that were actually going to deliver a better service and more value for my clients. And this is what really took my business off to the next level. When you can start focusing on their nutrition, their check-ins, and bringing in new clients and making sure that everything in your fulfillment cycle is working out, well, now you have something that is super valuable, and you have something that members are ready to sign up and buy. So once I was able to figure those 3 things out, that helped me scale to easily be able to maintain 100 to 125 personal training clients without making too many headaches. So if you want to see how I was able to do this, if you want to see how we were able to create this, what I did below in the description is I included a free 12-week training program that you can download. You can check out how I kind of pre-scripted an entire 12-week phase of training for one of my clients, and I was able to give this to multiple of my clients. But that's not it. There's also going to be a video on that page that's going to show you exactly how to use the semi-private system. It's a free training to be able to kind of teach you how to systemize your gym, the 3 things that you really need to focus on when you're looking to launch a semi-private type program. So go ahead, check that out, download the free 12-week program, watch that free training, and leave me a comment and let me know how it helps. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video.